time this manages to reach you. So, struggling to cobble something together, and as you can guess by the title, we're not on the Peugeot. So I figured it was time to introduce you to my third project. Yes, number 3, because I like to stay busy. So let's cue the intro. So yeah, Landrover. If you know me, you also know that's a bit out of place, because all anybody's ever seen me with is Peugeots over the years. The thing is, I've always had a soft spot for Land Rovers. I mean, being Norfolk born and bred, it's not out of place. Nearly every man and his dog has a bloody Land Rover out this way, and it's something I always wanted, but I could never afford one growing up, not with my background, until, yeah, well, as you can see, we've managed to get one. So this old girl was locally sourced. I spent a couple of months trying to find one, but every time one come up for sale in my local area, they just seem to sell almost instantly. Now, I probably did pay a little over the odds for her. She's heavily molested. I don't even know how to put it. She's been fiddled with to the back teeth. Things I'm not happy with, but of course every Land Rover has its bodgers and can be worked with. So let's start off with what she actually is. Well, she's not even a Defender. She's technically a 90, and that being ex-military as well. So of course we've got all the ex-military switchgear and everything, and she's a 1987, right on that crossover from series to Defender, if you want to call it Defender. Now, being she's ex-military, she should be a 2.5 NA, but luckily someone before me decided to do the work and put a 200 TDI disco lump in her. Now, it's installed, yes, it's on the factory NA transmission and everything, so if I put my foot to the floor, we top out at about 70 mile an hour with that thing bloody screaming its tits off. So yeah, it's been put in a little half-assed. We've got no glow plugs attached or anything. We look at things like this. It actually had a dump valve on it when I first got it. So some of the first jobs I did was remaking the boost pipe, because the dump valve annoyed me that much on a diesel. And basic things like the snorkel, which is there, wasn't plumbed up, so I ended up having to reroute everything. Obviously I made all my fancy pie cut stuff as I usually do. The breather was the wrong side of the air filter, so all we were doing was jamming the air filter up with oil to the point of you get a load of dust come down there, blocks the air filter up, and suddenly you got an asthmatic engine. And yeah, this whole truck front to back is stories like that, just little things which have been bodged up and very poorly done over time. Another one what proved itself to be highly amusing was the fact that I've got a ratchet strap in the winch. Now, the winch and everything actually works, but for whatever reason, previous owner put a ratchet strap in there, and to be honest, I just never bothered putting a new rope in. Now, for me, one of the massive selling points for me buying this truck was the safety devices cage. Anyone who knows what these cages are will know how much they cost. It's all tied in properly to the chassis as well. If we get under there and have a look, it's got all the chassis mounts, everything's present there. About the only thing I can fault on it is the fact that there's no gaskets. The other thing as well, being ex-military, I absolutely love the ex-military lights. It sounds stupid, it's such a basic thing, but these are hard to find these days, and I just fucking love the look of them. Obviously we've got the series style doors as well. The tops do come off, though for whatever reason previous owner has done an interesting mod with quick latches there. So at some point I've got to lose all these, repair. I think the bolts are actually missing in the tops there. I've only had them off once and didn't really pay much attention, to be honest. But this is something what can be worked with. I can soon fix these up. Need to lose that vial checker plate, and let's face it, that's rancid. And also the truck cab. A lot of people like the truck cab, but for me it's really weird with the cage on the back. And yeah, so truck cab is actually going next week, hopefully. So yeah, anyone who wants a truck cab, I've even got the roof liner for it, so hit us up. So since I've owned it, I've done a couple of little bits. For me, it's mainly been getting it mechanically sound. So obviously we did bits. We got the snorkel reattached, did all this pipe work, and then later on to come, there is an exhaust system what's got to be built. Don't know if we can see it with the light on, but that is the downpipe on this disco conversion, and whoever made that must walk around with a white stick, because yeah, that welding's questionable. Same as the exhaust, which comes out the back there. As you can see, when we were off-roading it, my missus hit a very low slung tree, and so that died a death very quickly. I didn't actually put this monstrosity on because I would not be cutting into the tub to mount something as garish as that. So as weird as it's going to sound, when I actually got this, it had been lowered by about an inch or two. Now, I don't know if that was because of the wear on the suspension or the springs the guy had on it. Admittedly, the shocks were completely dead. They were, well, they weren't even pissing the oil out of them. There was no oil left in them. So that was one of my first jobs, was to put all new suspension on, which it's a little bit dirty under there now, but I went straight for 2-inch terra firma lift kit. Can't remember what springs I got in the back. I think they might be medium duty or something. I suspect I might need heavies later on for another reason. But then we got all the radius arms and everything. She's all poly bushed, got the cranked rear arms. We just did the job properly. There was no point pissing around with it. Same as if you peer in there, we've got all the extended brake lines and everything. That's all fucking covered in Lanagard now. But yeah, we've got braided lines front and back, all extended. Steer and ball joints, they were all absolutely fucking knackered. Front ram, whatever you want to call it, steering stabilizer, can't remember, that's all new in there. Got the heavy duty arms. I'm using one on the arms. The previous owner made some arms to look like heavy duty ones by sliding a bit of metal conduit over the standard, and I was driving for ages with a rattle which I could not fucking locate, and in the end it turned out to be this bar which had been PVC taped, and it was just fucking as we were driving along. So yeah, that was an amusing bodge. LED headlights. Sounds a bit daft, but the old headlights, the originals, I've still got them there. I think they're Hellas or something like that. But it's like holding a candlelight outside at night time. You just can't see shit. So I went for the LEDs. Did like these stupid surrounds. Just completes the look of the front end to me. Yeah, new wheels as well. Now you can probably tell by the outline that she did have bolt-on arches at some point, and that was basically me off-roading. I ripped all the arches off one side, and so pretty much all winter they've stayed off. Uh, that's going to be one I'm going to have to address, because if you look at how far these wheels poke out, yeah. So these are 8J with 12.5-inch tyres, which is why we have got that lovely ballooning on them, which I'm quite fond of, I'm not going to lie. Did end up having to put limiters in the actual steering, so you've got an adjuster under there somewhere, and I've got a limiting plate in there as well, just so I'm not hitting on the arms or anything on full lock. So moving on to the interior, I've changed a couple of bits in here. So the head unit, which is now in the centre there, can't remember what brand this is of unit, but that tidied things up a lot. So the head unit used to be in, I think it was a bit of plywood or something, which had been wrapped in this carpet, and there was 2 4-inch speakers in there, which, to be fair, it looked the part, but it was annoying in the sense of you only had music in your left ear and you had no access to your air vents, which, if you know a Land Rover, or an old Land Rover rather, this is your aircon. So yeah, speaker wise, I took the 4 inches from there and I moved them underneath the dash. So this is some Vauxhall Corsa speaker pods, which have got a slight angle on them, and that gives just enough clearance on the magnet from the wiper motor, which is hidden in the back there. Obviously, I mounted the radio here, which to me, that's a hell of a lot neater job. And when I'm driving, I can literally just fiddle with that. When it's over here, you've got to lean over to the other side of the cab, and that's ridiculous. So seat-wise, these bucket seats were already in, and I'm not going to lie, I do bloody love them. These are quite comfy. The only thing I find is, with the truck cab, I can't get the seats to lean back quite far enough, so that's going to be another factor for me changing the cab on this. Now, centre console wise, this wasn't here. There was a 5 kilowatt diesel heater, which, if you know the size of diesel heaters, that's a bloody behemoth for something like this. That was made into an old kitchen cabinet which had just been bolted to the floor, and it had 2 6x9s in it. No practicality to it, no storage at all. So all I've gone and done, got myself a cubby box, got a 2 kilowatt diesel heater, which is in one of the mud lockers hidden under there. And that thing over winter has been an absolute godsend. But yeah, I just figured a little bit of storage, spot on. So obviously you look at everything else which is going on in this interior, and there's quite a few things which are still bodged up, still need a lot of work. We've got my dash, which hangs precariously. Got the doors. I mean, these are ex-military. I don't actually know if I ever had door cards from standard, but something needs to be done. You get a horrible draft off them. They're obviously leaking water and stuff like that. A little bit of rust to pick up on. So later on, I'm actually looking at making myself some door cards to go in here. I'm probably going to get some like fake leather and probably trim them, marine ply, trim it with fake leather, put some insulation in there because that's literally only single skin, and get myself a bit of warmth back. Right, so trying to think of things I might have missed while walking around this. There's been so much I've done to this in this last year, it's untrue. We've got stuff like the crankcase breathers, redid all the axle breathers and everything. Actually extended them right up because I intended on wading, so they come up to the top of my cage, about the same height as the snorkel. Yeah, there's just no end of work gone into it. If you own a Land Rover, you know what these are like. Now, I'm sure by now you keen-eyed viewers have spotted that she is indeed coated and wrapped her. Now, I absolutely bloody hate this stuff. From an extreme off-roading point of view, I can understand why people do it. But this previous owner's reason for doing it become apparent later on. So unfortunately, in this case, the Raptor has been used to hide a multitude of sins. Those sins being piss poor bodywork. So you can see, like here, I got some bubbles starting to come in the bulkhead. I mean, I should have picked up on this one when I bought her, to be honest. With this hideous bit of checker plate which has been riveted in there, was very obviously hide and rust, but I got giddy and bought it anyway. But you can now start to see the rust staining the outer and inner skin. Yes, that's a bit of blue tack to keep it watertight over winter. But again, this is going to be something I'm going to have to weld up this year. So what else? Well, this rear quarter had an inch of body filler hidden in her. Now, once I'd ripped that arch off this side, it took the filler with it, so it very obviously showed up all that damage. I don't even know what to say to that. Once I noticed that damage, I also noticed other things what I've been blindsided to. Like, if you look in the back of the step there's a spacer. Now, why is there a spacer? Because if you zoom out, the bottom end of the buck tails in. Now, I guarantee it's probably with this damage here, but yeah, this rear cross member has took an absolute whack. Now, I knew about these big old plates in the back end here, which have been done to repair her because she's rotted out, obviously. But somehow I completely missed that, which is the elephant in the room. But we don't worry about that too much. So, moving forward, I keep saying that I hate this little truck cab with, obviously, the cage over the top. So what are we doing about that? Well, when we finally get back to the unit today, I've got myself another tub. Got the correct tub for it as well. I've literally spent 6 months trying to find one, because for some reason they seem near impossible to find with the underseat fuel tank. Nearly everything seems to have a fuel tank in the rear end. But yeah, finally managed to get one. It's from a local guy as well, who has actually been kind enough. He dropped it off for me. The only downside with it, there's no cap-ins on her, so I've ordered all new cap-ins. Luckily I already had these new, because there was a little bit of a plan in place. I was just going to buy a full side and rebuild this one, but it turned out to be cheaper to get this whole second-hand tub. So I got brand new cap-ins to put on the top. Obviously that's going to get rid of that horrible hole in the floor as well. So moving forward with this, that exhaust gets the fuck off as well. Now again, when that exhaust goes, I've already got a load of 3-inch pipe, so we'll be making a new downpipe for her, full 3-inch, and I'm yet to decide where I want that exhaust to finish. Part of me wants it to come OEM and just be about here somewhere, maybe with some nice Landrover mud flaps. Another part of me does like the idea of it just being tucked under here somewhere and just pointing down and shooting underneath these sliders. The only issue is, obviously, I'll end up coating the rear end in fucking diesel soot. So then, with the new tub, we can finally get rid of this cab as well, because I've actually gone out and bought, over this past year, a new roof, sides, safari door, and basically everything I need to be able to convert this into, I don't know what to call it, a county back, van back. Not quite sure what's correct, so you'll have to correct me in the comments. But yeah, the idea is my daughter's took a bit of an interest in the Defender. She wants to come off-roading with her dad. Me and my partner like to go out in it as well, so I'm going to end up putting some county style seats in the back here, a couple of seat belts, and my daughter can come out too. And obviously just the new tub cleans all this up. We get rid of that garish exhaust. The bloody works. It just works out lovely. To start off with, I did want proper van backsides, just the tin sides, but I could only source sliding windows, and with my daughter taking an interest in it, it's kind of played out all right. So yeah, that is pretty much the plans with her. So we'll head over to the unit now and we'll go take a look at that tub. Right, so there we have it. That is one new tub. Well, new to me, but it's good enough for what I need. So all the sides completely straight, no corrosion underneath. The only two mischiefs I've seen seem to be just down here, which is absolutely nothing, and one mischief just over here where this top edge there to there has split. But in hindsight, that's absolutely nothing compared to the tub on her. So yeah, like I say, everything's absolutely straight. So moving forward, obviously she suffered a fair bit of corrosion there. So all I'm going to do, nothing too drastic, just literally take all that shit back down to bare metal, get rid of all this white shit, and then Aidan has very kindly let me use his 2K epoxy primer. So that's just going to get brushed on underneath the cap, and it's going to be the one bit I can never get back to. So I've got brand spanking new cap ends there. I've got brand spanking new, don't know what you actually call these, the end plates for the tub go in here obviously. And I ordered new cappings the other day for this, but I ordered the wrong ones, so they've now gone back. I'm now waiting on the correct ones, because apparently there's a slight difference between Defender and series ones. Defender ones start like down here for the trim and they come over, whereas series style start up here, which obviously is where most of that corrosion has come from. So just to show, that's a series style. Probably shouldn't do this because it's a neighbour's customer's car. Fuck me, we're not that bright. There we are, camera's corrected itself. And obviously that's Defender style. So that they're on order at the moment, and I think they're actually arriving today, but today is just going to be a case of get the corrosion knocked off this tub and epoxy prime it so it doesn't corrode again underneath the cappings. Obviously epoxy priming it isn't going to affect it being painted later, because I'll flat all the surfaces anyway when it's being painted, and anything what's under the cappings you wouldn't be able to get to anyway, so should be more than good enough for what I need. Yeah, there's a couple of extra holes in the tub what shouldn't be there. That's why this guy actually sold it, because he's restoring one. To me, these extra holes are nothing. They're not going to faze me. As much as I want her to be clean, she's still a workhorse at the end of the day. So there's going to be a couple of other little bits I do to this as well. I might end up getting the corner plates so I can cut that. So these always end up getting bent. I mean, this one isn't bent, but if I'm going to be off-roading her, there's probably a good chance they will get bent later on. So easy prevention measure, and it saves the rest of the tub later. Let's just chop them off and put those corner plates in. But yeah, for now, let's crack on. Right, well, an hour later, that's all these areas which have now been bare metalled and painted with 2K epoxy primer. Now, I do realise you look at it and it looks like an absolute abortion, and I'm kind of expecting uproar in the comments about what I've just done to this pretty damn clean tub. I mean, to look at it visually here, it actually looked quite nice and black. It's not until you actually start getting up close that you realise it's gone matte black and it's actually been resprayed about 4 times. But, so my reasoning for this 2K epoxy primer, traditional primers, what are out of the rattle can, stuff with like acid etch and stuff like that, is porous, whereas 2K is not. So what I've done is knocked all the corrosion back to bare metal, and in certain areas like this you can see just how thin that aluminium was getting. In an ideal scenario, if I had infinite money, I needed 2 new rear back panels as well, and maybe a little repair to the bits under here. But for now, it's a clean tub. This is going to get me going again. But back to that 2K epoxy primer. So this stuff is not porous. I'll be able to put my brand new cap-ins straight on, which they're not galvanised, they're powder coated ones. But the idea is to stop the dissimilar metal corrosion, so that is what makes this aluminium puff out and go 3 times worse. So by putting something like 2K epoxy primer on, it's now trapped away from the steel, it shouldn't react. And not only that, but being it's now trapped away from moisture and the air, it should stop it corroding anymore. So theory in principle is that the cap-ins can go straight over the top of this, and I don't have to worry about painting it or anything now to protect it. So as you can guess, this isn't going to stay like this forever. So this is a temporary basis until the rest of the bodywork is finished and she's ready to be sprayed. But the idea is the cap-ins now do not have to come back off. I can spray over the cap-ins and everything and just spray the tub all as a oneer. But yeah, so that is that job ticked off. I think I've just had the corner cap-ins we were talking about in the last little bit arrive this morning, so they'll have to be riveted on. Obviously they've got to be riveted on last because they sort of hug over the top of everything, and so I believe. Have a quick look on this one. But yeah, you can sort of see the corner cap-ins go underneath. So yeah, that should then be this tub ready to go on, and we're not sort of stopping there because I've got to get this on by next week. Lads in here have been kind enough to me. Usually we leave this centre section clear as a communal area in this unit, but they've allowed me to store this in here on the basis it's going on her next week and we're not messing around. So yeah, to finish off this section, this video is going to be sort of choppy, changey all over the place because I filmed bits in the field with her earlier, and then obviously we are here right now with the tub. But so the final plans will be, I don't know at what point, but I discussed about a period correct ribbed roof, so that sits up there. Got a couple of sides set up there as well, and hidden behind there is a pretty clean safari door. The only thing that needs is just the framework re-welding. I'm guessing, well, I say I'm guessing, I don't think it's ever had a spare wheel or anything put on it, so God knows why it's cracked, but outside skin looks perfect. I'll crack the TIG welder out, reinforce the frame up, that's not going to be a problem. And then yeah, we should have a van-backed Defender. And as if by YouTube magic, we are back in that field where we started filming earlier. Now, you've pretty much heard the plans with us, so we're going van back. We've obviously got some repairs to do. One thing I haven't touched upon, and we'll flip the camera around, is obviously this rear cross member is foobarred. Now, it's had those piss poor repairs done in the back, and it does actually have a couple of real questionable plates in the back here as well. So I do have a quarter chassis galvanised rear end to put in her, which basically results in this being cut somewhere about here. Gets rid of all that scabbing. We've also got a lovely, nice new straight rear end to put on her, which plays out quite well, because one of the other issues I had was to put this new cross member on, I need to have a tub which I know is 110% straight. So obviously we've got the bending in there, so I've lost my reference on this corner. It then becomes questionable how straight is this point, and the only 3 points I know I could go off would be this right hand side. Put a new tub on, square it off to the rest of the chassis and everything, and I know when I put the cross member on, the cross member just has to meet up to the tub and I'm never going to have an issue again. So yeah, we've got that new cross member to weld in to later on after the van back conversion. Then just about over there somewhere we've got the bulkhead that obviously needs to be repaired, and then we can start doing some more fun stuff where we actually look at the interior, make it a bit more livable and drivable. But for now, I think that's pretty much it on the Landrover. we'll probably end up with a few videos going forward on the Land Rover. This is my daily, so at the moment it takes priority over the pugs. A little bit of a shame, because I know everyone gets hyped up over the pug engine building and everything, but I don't see it being finished this year, and so I need to keep this thing as my daily on the road. But cheers for watching, guys. Appreciate your comments and likes as per normal. If you wouldn't mind giving me a subscribe, spot on. I'm becoming one of those typical YouTubers by the sounds of it. But yeah, cheers for watching, guys. Catch you later.